Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man Sunrise. During the last part, I completed Wily Stages 1 and 2, so now I continue directly off of Wily Stage 3. Here we see all these cannons moving up and down. I suppose we'll be finishing the game in this part, so I suppose this is the final part. The last part was definitely a bit rough because certain stages really kicked my butt. It's definitely a step up in difficulty in several regards, that's for sure. But at least it's fun. I just wish that some of the challenges in Wily Stage 2 were a bit more fair, because there was a lot of sudden gotcha movements with instant death traps and whatnot. Ah, I completely forgot they can do that. Oh, good, they're gone. Thank you. And we're back to the water environment, the rainy environment for some reason. Almost all my special weapons are starting to run low, but I have so many M-tanks that I shouldn't worry too much. Let's take the right path. That was the correct one, apparently. Oh. The cannons are being quite annoying, though. That's for sure. Because they're hitting me at almost every place. I see a lot of weapon pickups, so I'm suspicious. Let me get the M-bomb up. And Sound Dash. Oh good, another free E-tank. That's wonder... Oh, okay, good. A long drop and... Oh. Okay, so this is the hatch room. I was expecting one more Wily stage before we go to the hatch room, but apparently not. We're directly in the boss rematch stage. Sorry for the pause over there, I just needed to calibrate something. So we're at the boss rematch room, so let's start from the top left side and see what's up. Okay, we have Vine Man. We didn't have his weakness before, so he's not weak against anything that we have before, so let's go in the order that we can think of. So, Sound Dash. Ineffective. H-Bomb. Not good either. Haze Shield. Sort of effective, but... Kunai Blade? Oh yes, it's definitely the Kunai Blade. To be fair, I guess the knives that cut the wood... I mean, the knives cut the vines. Well, at least we found a use for the Kunai Blade. Otherwise, it's outclassed by the Mega Buster and the Squirt Smelter. Okay, we have Valve Man. He wasn't weak against any of our other weapons, so... Scorch? Nope. Vine. Oh, that's... Vine is super effective, it seems. I think that's his weakness, then. Now if I can remember how to fight the bosses without looking like a nincompoop. There we go. So I suppose Vine Whip was his weakness. At least I hope that it was his weakness. I know that all bosses have secondary weaknesses, so I may have mixed it up. Okay, Kunai Man, I remember you're weak against the Mirage Bomb. I still don't know how you're supposed to fight, though. There we go. I still need to figure out what his pattern is, of course, but now I don't anymore. Okay, you are... Circuit Man. So... Nope. No, Sound Man, sorry. Oh, he was weak against the Circuit Breaker, now I remember. Sorry, I mixed up the silhouettes of the bosses. My apologies. Wasn't too bad, I'm getting a little bit better. Okay, you were Mirage Man, so you're weak against the Sound Dash. I have enough M-tanks to burn, so I think I should be using that soon. You have the Mirage Bomb, of course. It still will pierce through. Sure, let's use M-Tank right now. I have 4 M-Tanks to burn, so I think I have enough for the final boss, unless it turns out to have a lot more phases. I'm a little bit disappointed that there's no Wily Stage 3 before the Hatch stage, but oh well, at least this'll do. Seriously, he does a lot of contact damage, much more than I expected. I feel a lot of these bosses in this game do too much contact damage, personally, in comparison to their normal attacks. Jetman, no, I mean Haze Man. Oh no. Okay, never mind, I have full Divine Whip. Wow, I just one-cycled him. Just when he was running away. Fancy. Okay, you are Circuit Man. Sorry. So, considering it's the first boss I fought, I'm gonna have to try everything against him. Vine Whip. Ineffective. Scorch Smelter. Oh yeah, Scorch Smelter for some reason. Even though he's an electric-based boss, I suppose that because we fought him in the ice stage, he's weak against fire. The main portion, of course. Especially when he jumps around. Fair enough. Even though he's an electric type, he was in an ice stage, so the weakness makes sense there. So the last boss is Scorchman, who's weak against the Valve Missile. I've seen people complain that it's kind of hard to dodge some of his patterns, especially the latter one. One of the ones coming up. Specifically this one, but it is possible as long as you're as long as you're precise. What's his weakness? I guessed it'd be a Circuit Breaker. Oh, that was close. I guess it'd be a Circuit Breaker considering I used it once before, I think. Okay, we're in good enough shape. We have 3 lives and full everything. And 4 E-Tanks and M-Tanks, so we will survive. And that was Wily Stage 3. I was expecting a boss fight at the end, but okay, we have a separate final boss then. Kind of a convoluted path to go through in a spiral. So I assume that we're going to be having multiple phases to the boss fight. Or even several bosses, because we still don't know what happened to Trance after refining the second phase of Robot Masters. It seems like she's still a bit maverick. So she may be one of the final bosses that we fight. Okay. So Dr. Wily's begging for mercy. I doubt... I'm suspicious, considering Dr. Wily did this once before. Or several times before. And this is kind of a change. I was expecting to find Trance, but apparently we have Wily. And Mega Man's right. Okay. And Mega Man intervenes, otherwise the Wily would have been toast. Is it really what Wily's programming? Or is it really something else? Or is it part of her new advanced AI? Could be either. After all, the more human-like you become, less of a robot. Less of the following the 3 laws, supposedly. Okay, we fight Trance again. Oh, okay. It seemed like before, but no ceiling for some reason. Okay, fair enough. Oh, never mind, we have the ceiling. Ow. She doesn't have any weakness, if I recall correctly. And I still have a hard time with dodging her attacks. Oh, that's different. Oh boy. That's what makes the boss fight different. The ceiling gets... or the walls get closes in on each other faster. E-Tank. Yep, she's immune. I expected as much. Oh, I'm doing a terrible job dodging now. Well, that's one way of making the boss fight much harder. There we go, Trance has been defeated once again. Of course, Dr. Wily, I expected that all. Dr. Wily's pulled it off so many times in the main games and the fan games that it's basically a cliche at this point. Of course, Dr. Wily doesn't know that we have so many E-Tanks and M-Tanks in order to defeat him. Oh, we have the final boss team from Mega Man Eternal for some reason. M-Tank time. I do like the final boss team from Mega Man Eternal, so that's going to be nice. Let's see what his weakness is. And we had the Wily capsule, no Wily Machine for some reason. Interesting, we just go directly to the Wily capsule. On a limited screen, too. Let's see what his weakness is supposed to be. Should be the most awkward weapon, according to tradition. Nope, that's still not it. Maybe this one? Sorry if I'm spamming E-Tanks, but I really don't want to die. Maybe that? Haze Shield? Nope, it is doing a lot of damage. So, Trance Wrecker? Yep, it's the Trance Wrecker. Of course it would be. If I actually hit him with it. And it is a little bit awkward to hit him with it, so it makes sense. One more hit should do it. There we go. Dr. Y has been defeated. I could have done this actually using no E-Tanks if I practiced, but oh well. I just shot my way through it, otherwise I would have wasted all my E-Tanks. Or my E-Tanks and M-Tanks would have been wasted, basically. Oh, and that's the end. I kind of expected an ending sequence, or an extra stage. Apparently not. So we cut directly to the credits. Kind of abrupt if you ask me. Well, I guess then this was Mega Man Sunrise. Oh, and here's the full title. Okay, I was expecting a credits, it just felt like the game abruptly ended. It feels like there should have been an ending sequence or something more after the final boss fight, like saying, okay, here's what happened in the story, here's the conclusion, here's what we're doing for future, here's Mega Man talking about everlasting peace, how hard it is, etc, etc. Done. Because otherwise, what happened to Trance? Is she dead for good, or was she rebuilt? After all, Dr. Wily sort of rebuilt her, so I suppose Dr. Light could rebuild her too, because Mega Man, I suppose, has the IC chip. A lot of unanswered questions in that regard. Alright, I guess this is the time where I give my final thoughts on Mega Man Sunrise as a whole. If I were to say one thing about Mega Man Sunrise, I would say it's decidedly average. Or woefully average in some regards. It's a game that has a lot of flaws, and it shows, especially nearer the end of the game. The beginning parts of the game, especially after the changes in from version 1.0 to version 1.1, are mostly fine. There are some odd segments here and there, like one segment in Valman Stage, or two segments, as two segments in Scorched Man Stage. Vineman Stage was, for the most part, pretty good, and Circuit Man was good. As we went further, there were a lot more segments that were a bit more iffy. You saw with Haze Man and some of the precise spike areas that I had to go through, and that would have been much more tougher if I didn't have the Sound Dash. Sound Man Stage was fine. Mirage Man, more precise spike jumps, but at least we didn't have to contend with air, you could get used to it. And Kunai Man, well, that was fine too, but for some reason the last checkpoint was broken at the boss doors. That should be fixed. It's when the Dr. Wily stages where things start to somewhat fall apart. You saw what happened in Stage 2 where I died a lot due to the combination of the maces, or whatever they're called, which I have no problem with, and the fact that, well, there are a lot of gotcha moments with the spike drops. This wouldn't be as much of a problem in the NES titles because you had more screen real estate to work with, but here, with the Game Boy's lower resolution, you have less time to react to the spike drops, so there are a lot of cheap deaths can happen there. It was definitely worse in version 1.0 where the scrolling was faster. With it being slowed down, you at least have some more chance to react to what's going on. But really those should be fixed, and there should be more introduction to the up and down platforms in a safer environment. Because in the second place where you find them, you can get easily sniped or gotcha'd by the spike ceiling if you're not careful, and that happened to me, as you noticed. The other thing is that I would like it, well, I kind of got caught off guard by the fact that the sound dash doesn't actually go through those maces. It goes through enemies fine, but apparently it doesn't go through the spikes, and it sent me to the abyss. So level design really needs more work put into it, especially in the second half, and especially the Wily stages. Speaking of the Wily stages, the first two, I was expecting a third Wily stage that wasn't a Robot Remaster fight. I know we had the two of them, but really I feel like there should be a tradition of 3 or 4 main Wily stages, and then the final boss, the refight room, and then the final boss against Wily, and maybe an extra stage if necessary. But here we only have 4, and the 4th stage ends up pretty abruptly. I do like the boss fights there, the two ones, but especially the fact that we don't have an official Wily Machine, we only have a Wily capsule, plus the game ends very abruptly. It feels a little bit disappointing. It feels like the developer ran out of time and couldn't add an official ending, or at least an end screen saying congratulations or something. It's kind of disappointing there. So level design is decidedly average with several flaws, especially in the later stages. My favorite part of the game is definitely the boss fights. For the most part, the boss fights follow relatively set patterns and are pretty fun to understand and get used to. Sure, some of the bosses like Feynman and Mirage Man can be a little bit jerkish, especially with their random movements, especially Mirage Man because of explosives and the fact that his illusion can harm you. But other than that, they're pretty fun. I would say Mirage Man needs some work, and Feynman, with practice I would have gotten more used to him, and my incompetence in Kunai Man was all my fault because he followed a relatively set pattern. The Urchin Attacker in the Wily Fortress 1, I'll call it the Urchin Attacker because of how giant it is. I pulled up the name of enemies by this point actually. He was okay, but I wish he was more weak against the Circuit Breaker because you barely have enough weapon energy to actually defeat him using the special weapon. The special weapon only deals twice as much damage as the Mega Buster, and considering how you can only have one of those shots on screen at once compared to the 3 of the Mega Buster, and the precision that you need to actually hurt the Urchin Attacker, it can become a problem. The Cube Devil was also pretty fun, with a very logical weakness of being the Haze Shield, being able to block all the projectiles, and being able to be at close range, you can easily just whittle it down, because the Haze Shield will never be destroyed. And Dr. Wily's weakness against the Trance Wrecker also kind of made sense because it was one of the more awkward ones to hit him with, although you could hit him multiple times with it. It could have been even more awkward with the Circuit Breaker or Sound Dash though. I just wish that Trance actually had a weakness in the second encounter. It seems that she's immune to all Roadmaster weapons by like what I guessed, so similar to the Proto Man / Breakman fight in Mega Man 3. So all the bosses were pretty fun to fight and understand. Some were definitely tough like Scorch Man, Mirage Man, and the Urchin Attacker, but all of them were pretty fun to understand, and I think I could eventually do all of them using no E-Tank's Buster only, with the exception of maybe Mirage Man. On to the special weapons. The special weapons, for the most part, were pretty fun to use. I would say that 7 of the special weapons were, I would say, passable or awesome. The only 2 special weapons which are kind of meh or not that useful are the Kunai Blade, because you could always just use the Mega Buster, and well, the Kunai Blade you can have 4 or 5 on screen at once, so I suppose that's what the use is, but because of the lower screen size, it's not as necessary. If we had the NES resolution, sure, I would say the Kunai Blade would be more useful, but outside of weakness affiliation to Feynman and Soundman, it's not that useful. The Valve Missile is like the Dive Missile, so that's why I kinda don't find it as useful, and it can't really travel diagonally. And you can only change direction once, so that adds to its problematic factor. If you could fire it multiple times, if you could change direction and fire multiple at once, or it would home in on enemies by itself, it would be much better. Otherwise, I just actively avoid using it, other than against Scorchman. And if I run out of weapon energy, maybe Circuit Man. The Scorched Melter was pretty awesome weapon. It was the first straight-firing weapon, and unlike the other ones, it would pierce through most enemies, barring shield and armored enemies, hit them multiple times, and the 2 fireballs that are fired from the main fireball are pretty useful for hurting foes that are directly above and below it. Pretty good weapon. The Haze Shield was one of the best weapons in the game. I know shield weapons are kind of... it depends, they run the gamut in Mega Man games in terms of usefulness, but this was definitely one of the more useful ones. Mainly for the fact that it will never go down. Even if it hits a shielded enemy, it'll never actually get destroyed. The only way it'll get destroyed is if you leave a screen. And due to its unfortunately low weapon energy count or high ammo usage, you can't really use it much, so you better save it for situations which really necessitate it. But for those that do, especially against boss fights like the Cube Devil and the Valve Man, and segments with a lot of projectiles, this is an awesome weapon. It's definitely one of my favorite shield weapons in the entire Mega Man franchise. If it had even more clouds, then it would become even more awesome, personally. Because some bullets can still sneak through. For the main fact that it can't be destroyed, the Haze Shield is basically my second favorite weapon in the game. The Mirage Bomb is just your classic bomb weapon. It deals the most damage and can basically one-shot Big Eyes. So, definitely a pretty good weapon, but otherwise it's relatively standard. The Circuit Breaker I first thought was it was basically like the Spark Shot combined with the Surge Snake. But now that I realized it has the ability, or once I realized that it had the ability to stun enemies, it definitely went up there in terms of usefulness. I didn't use it as much, but if I had the ability to do quick weapon switching, I would definitely use it more against enemies like the shield attackers or Sniper Joes or Hammer Joes. Freezing them in place, or even the turrets, freezing them in place would make dealing with them a lot better. The Sound Dash was my favorite weapon in the game. Being able to dash through areas mostly unimpeded, piercing through all enemies, barring stage hazards, while it's not basically having invulnerability, was pretty awesome, especially being able to damage enemies in the process as well. It really made stages like Haze Man and Mirage Man a lot easier to deal with, and certain segments of Wily Fortress 1 and 2, because now you don't need to worry about falling into spikes. And considering the fact that it ignores the fan, it really makes it awesome. It's awesome for the same reason why I love the Comet Dash in Mega Man Unlimited, and the Haze Sprint in Mega Man Revolution. Because it allows you to be invulnerable to most enemies, and speeds up your movement, and turns off gravity in some regards. And in some ways it's better than the Comet Dash because of the smaller screen size. It feels like you travel further. It's just a feeling. But for that alone, being able to become invulnerable and going through certain areas with invulnerability time, it's my favorite weapon. Next we have the Vine Whip. The Vine Whip it's a melee weapon, but I didn't really find that much use to it. Sure, it has a longer range, I just wish it has a bigger vertical hitbox because it was hard to hit enemies who were just below you. Like you saw with some of my difficulties with hitting the Big Eyes. I just wish that the Vine Whip actually wiggled a lot more vertically so you could actually hit foes. Then it would become a lot more useful. And my last special weapon that I used was the Trance Wrecker. The Trance Wrecker is definitely my third favorite weapon in the game. It does 2 points of damage to enemies it hits, and it deals 1 point of damage when it hits the ground. It does 1 point of damage to all enemies on screen if it hits the ground, so it's a combination of a screen clearing weapon and a direct hit weapon. Not only that, but because of the length of the ball and chain, it can actually multi-hit enemies, so you can end up doing 4 to 6 points of damage if you can aim it correctly, making it pretty awesome. So to summarize, the Haze Shield, Sound Dash, and Trance Wrecker are my favorite weapons in the game, top tier. The mid-tier weapons are the Circuit Breaker, Mirage Bomb, and the Scorched Melter. My low-tier weapons or least favorite are the Kunai Blade, Valve Missile, and the Vine Whip. As for the music, well, as I said before, the music tracks are taken from other fan games and other sources. They aren't original in that regard, though they are good at the very least. It could have been much worse, like Mega Man Calmaxian Edition, where the music is unbearable to listen to. And with all of this said and done, we need to take my criticism with a grain of salt, because this game was made under a self-imposed challenge of 2 months, so a lot of the design flaws are evident because of the lack of beta testing and a lot of refinement. Even with that, it still is an average Mega Man game. And I would play it in the future, but I would like to see more changes to the levels to make it a bit more fun to play. The improvements of version 1.0 to 1.0 were definitely warranted, but I would like to see more done. I did enjoy my playthrough, but there were several frustrating parts, as I mentioned before, that really brought down my experience, and I feel like there could be a lot more expanded onto this game. This is a good baseline, but I would like to see more. Well then, I thank you all for watching this LP, viewers, and I wish you all a nice day. Toodles!